The deafening thud echoed through Judge Marlin's courtroom like an explosion. A 380-pound woman had just crashed onto the floor with enough force that the bailiff instinctively glanced toward the ceiling, wondering if something inside the courthouse had broken loose. Brenda Louise Carter lay sprawled across the polished tile, her designer handbag overturned, makeup and papers scattered across the courtroom floor while paramedics rushed toward her. But this wasn't a medical emergency. This was the exact second reality finally shattered years of arrogance, manipulation, and entitlement. Only moments earlier, Brenda had walked into that courtroom radiating confidence. Sitting beside her was the man she believed would guarantee victory. A sharply dressed attorney who, according to her, was finally going to destroy the personal trainer she blamed for humiliating her. Brenda thought she had spent good money on elite legal representation. What she didn't know was that Judge Marlin had already spent the entire morning making calls to the California State Bar, local investigators, and fraud departments. And what the judge discovered was about to destroy both Brenda and the man calling himself attorney Ryan Cole. Brenda Louise Carter had spent almost 50 years forcing people to submit to her demands. At nearly 380 pounds, she had long ago learned that intimidation worked. She took up space physically, emotionally, and socially, and most people eventually backed down, rather than confront her. She was infamous in her neighborhood for parking her oversized SUV across multiple parking spaces and daring anyone to complain. Retail employees recognized her instantly because she constantly demanded managers and threatened businesses with bad reviews and complaints. Former workers who had once worked under Brenda described her as terrifying. According to them, she humiliated employees publicly, screamed over tiny mistakes, and ruled through fear. Yet Brenda genuinely believed she was simply a woman with high standards. When she hired Daniel Reyes as a personal trainer 6 months earlier, she viewed him as another service worker she could dominate. Daniel owned a respected training studio with loyal clients and an excellent reputation. But from their first session together, Brenda treated him like a servant, rather than a professional. The problems started immediately. She regularly arrived 30 or 40 minutes late while still demanding a full session. Half the time she spent workouts barking into her cell phone while ignoring Daniel completely. Whenever he corrected her form or warned her about safety, she snapped back that she knew her own body better than some gym rat. But things became much darker than ordinary rudeness. Brenda repeatedly mocked Daniel's accent and questioned where he was really from, despite the fact he had been born in Los Angeles. During sessions, she touched him inappropriately in ways that clearly made him uncomfortable. And after 6 sessions, she stopped paying entirely. She insisted his services weren't worth the money and threatened to ruin his business online if he pursued payment. Daniel tried handling the situation professionally. He sent polite reminders, then invoices, then formal notices. He offered payment plans and even suggested ending things peacefully if she simply paid what she owed. Instead, Brenda escalated everything. She found Daniel's home address and appeared outside his house, screaming accusations in front of neighbors. She contacted his clients, attempting to destroy his reputation. And when Daniel eventually posted a vague social media message about setting boundaries with difficult clients, Brenda became furious. She immediately assumed the post referred to her, and from that moment, she decided Daniel needed to suffer. That's when she met Ryan Cole. At least that was the name on the business card. His office looked legitimate. His website appeared professional. Most importantly, Ryan told Brenda exactly what she wanted to hear. He promised she had an excellent case. He claimed Daniel had committed serious defamation, and he assured Brenda they would make him pay dearly for disrespecting someone of her status. Brenda eagerly paid him a $3,000 retainer. Over 6 months, she handed him nearly $12,000 total. Ryan filled her head with complicated legal terminology and constant promises of victory. He convinced her that Judge Marlin would absolutely side with them. So when Brenda entered Judge Marlin's courtroom beside Ryan that morning, she felt untouchable. Ryan certainly looked convincing. His charcoal suit was perfectly tailored. His leather briefcase looked expensive beneath courtroom lighting. Thin-framed glasses gave him an intelligent appearance. He carried legal pads covered in notes and moved with the confidence of someone experienced in court. Brenda repeatedly glanced across the room toward Daniel. who sat alone with only a folder of documents and a nervous expression. She smirked. This would be easy. What Brenda didn't know was that Judge Marlin's staff had noticed something unusual during routine verification. Ryan Cole's bar license didn't exist. Further investigation uncovered a former paralegal named Ryan Miller who had been fired from a law firm years earlier. Judge Marlin personally began digging deeper that very morning, and what she uncovered transformed the hearing from a simple civil dispute into something far more serious. Now she sat silently behind the bench with evidence organized carefully inside a thick folder. Evidence that would expose not one fraud, but two. Judge Marlin opened the hearing calmly. Ms. Carter, you're suing Mr. Reyes for defamation and emotional distress in the amount of $5,000. Explain your claim. Instead of answering directly, Brenda immediately launched into dramatic theatrics. Your Honor, this man completely destroyed my reputation through reckless social media lies, she announced loudly. I treated him with professionalism and respect after paying him good money, and he repaid me by publicly humiliating me online. She pointed dramatically toward Daniel. My attorney can confirm this is obvious defamation under California law. Ryan nodded confidently while pretending to organize documents. But Brenda couldn't simply tell facts. She needed to insult Daniel constantly. She rolled her eyes while describing his methods and sarcastically used air quotes around the word professional. This man claimed to be a fitness expert, she sneered. But he clearly didn't understand how to work with clients of my stature. The courtroom atmosphere shifted awkwardly. Even before hearing Daniel's side, Brenda's story sounded exaggerated and rehearsed. Judge Marlin interrupted sharply. Ms. Carter, I didn't ask for your opinion of his abilities. I asked what specifically happened that you believe qualifies as defamation. Stick to facts. Most people would have immediately adjusted their tone. Brenda didn't. Instead, she released a loud, irritated sigh. Well, if you'd let me finish. Your Honor, I was trying to explain context. The courtroom instantly went silent. Brenda had just sighed at Judge Marlin. Judge Marlin slowly leaned forward. Excuse me, she said quietly. Did you just sigh at me inside my courtroom? But somehow Brenda still thought she controlled the situation. She looked toward Ryan for reassurance. He nodded slightly. I'm trying to explain my case, Brenda replied defensively. My attorney and I spent months preparing evidence of emotional distress and reputational damage. Judge Marlin calmly wrote notes before turning toward Daniel. Mr. Reyes? Daniel straightened nervously. Your Honor, Miss Carter trained with me for 6 sessions. From the beginning, she was disrespectful. She constantly arrived late while expecting extra time. She exceeded safety instructions and repeatedly made uncomfortable comments about my background. His voice remained calm, but after 6 sessions, she refused to pay me. I sent invoices and offered payment arrangements. Instead, she started harassing me. Daniel explained how Brenda appeared outside his house, screaming in front of neighbors and contacted his clients, attempting to damage his business. When I made a general social media post about setting boundaries with difficult clients, she decided it was about her and filed this lawsuit. He showed screenshots of threatening text messages. I never mentioned her name publicly, he explained. I only wanted payment for my work. Brenda laughed loudly during his testimony. Oh, please, she scoffed. You should be grateful I hired you at all. Trainers would kill for clients who can afford premium rates. Judge Marlin watched silently as Brenda continued damaging herself, and showing up at his house was me trying to resolve things like an adult. Brenda added smugly, apparently oblivious to the irony of bringing an attorney into small claims court to intimidate someone. But Judge Marlin was no longer watching Brenda. Her eyes had locked fully onto Ryan. The trap was ready. Mr. Cole, Judge Marlin began calmly, I'd like to ask about your representation of Miss Carter. Ryan adjusted his tie carefully. Of course, Your Honor. Where did you attend law school? Southwestern Law School, class of 2012. And which states are you licensed in? California and New York. Brenda smiled proudly beside him. What year were you admitted to the California State Bar? Ryan hesitated briefly. 2015. But his body language changed instantly. His shoulders tightened. Sweat formed along his forehead. Judge Marlin leaned back slowly. Mr. Cole, did you review all discovery materials in this case? Yes, Your Honor. Then explain why you never discussed California's statute of limitations regarding defamation claims. Ryan froze. He shuffled papers frantically. I didn't think it was the strongest legal strategy. Judge Marlin's eyebrows rose. Interesting. Because any first-year law student knows California provides 1 year to file such claims. Ryan stared blankly. Brenda's confidence finally started cracking. She whispered harshly toward him. What is she talking about? Ryan whispered back shakily. She's trying to intimidate us. But the sweat pouring down his face told another story. Judge Marlin continued. Did you explain to your client the risks of filing this lawsuit? Potential sanctions? Possible harassment claims against her? Ryan answered vaguely. We discussed possible outcomes. Judge Marlin's expression hardened. Mr. Cole, explain the legal distinction between defamation per se and defamation per quod. Any licensed attorney could answer instantly. Ryan could not. His face turned pale. Well, per se is inherently defamatory and per quod requires. His voice faded into incoherent mumbling. Judge Marlin turned slowly toward Brenda. Ms. Carter, she asked calmly, does your attorney actually know what he's doing? Brenda immediately snapped back. Of course he does. He's the best lawyer money can buy. 6 months, Judge Marlin repeated softly as she opened the thick folder on her desk. The courtroom became completely silent. Mr. Cole, she said carefully, or should I say Ryan Miller? Ryan's entire body froze. Judge Marlin lifted several documents from the folder. I contacted the California State Bar this morning. There is no licensed attorney named Ryan Cole matching your credentials. You are not authorized to practice law in California or New York. Gasps filled the courtroom. Brenda stared at Ryan in disbelief. Judge Marlin continued coldly. You worked as a paralegal until you were terminated 3 years ago. Since then, you have fraudulently represented yourself as an attorney and accepted money from clients under false pretenses. Ryan's face drained completely of color. Brenda suddenly looked terrified. Judge Marlin wasn't finished. Ms. Carter, over the last 6 months, you paid this man approximately $12,000 while he illegally practiced law. Brenda looked wildly toward Ryan. You told me you were licensed, she whispered. Ryan couldn't answer. Judge Marlin's voice became even colder. And unfortunately for you, Miss Carter, your own conduct throughout this case has now created serious additional concerns. She began listing evidence, threatening text messages, harassment, unwanted visits to Daniel's home, attempts to interfere with his business. The more Judge Marlin spoke, the more Brenda's confidence collapsed. You attempted to weaponize the court system against someone because he refused to tolerate your behavior, Judge Marlin said sharply. And you hired a fraudulent attorney because you believed money and intimidation would guarantee victory. Brenda's breathing became heavy. You are fortunate Mr. Reyes has not already filed additional claims against you. The room spun around Brenda. Everything she believed was collapsing in real time. The fake lawyer beside her, the lawsuit. The humiliation, the public exposure. Then suddenly, Brenda tried standing. Her knees buckled instantly. She crashed violently onto the courtroom floor. Papers flew everywhere. Paramedics rushed forward as stunned silence filled the courtroom. Ryan sat frozen beside her, completely destroyed. And across the courtroom, Daniel Reyes simply sat quietly, exhausted but finally vindicated. In the weeks that followed, Ryan Miller faced fraud and impersonation investigations. Brenda's lawsuit was dismissed entirely, and Daniel received overwhelming public support after footage of the hearing spread online. His business exploded with new clients who admired the calm professionalism he maintained throughout the ordeal. He eventually opened a second training studio and became an advocate for workers dealing with abusive customers. Meanwhile, Judge Marlin's handling of the case became legendary, not because she humiliated anyone, but because she exposed 2 people who believed arrogance, manipulation, and intimidation placed them above consequences. In the end, the lesson became impossible to ignore. No matter how long it takes, entitlement and fraud always collapse beneath the weight of truth.